3 reform, we could get to zero poverty 20 years earlier than the status quo. There is no question that labor laws retard employment and breed unorganized
Manish Sabharwal?
I'm afraid this is a very easy way of putting it.
But it's a correct way. Maybe an easy way of putting it, but it's also a correct and an accurate way of putting it.
It is an inaccurate way of putting it.
What is
and if you give me half a
said?
chance, I'll tell you why it's inaccurate. It's inaccurate because what he wants to do is to convert the 7% organized labor into the conditions of life in which the 93% unorganized people live. What basically is attempted to be done is to remove the basic protection that organized labor has in order to give them the lack of protection that unorganized labor has.
Manish,
is this a fair and just way of doing things? And he says that, excuse me, one other. He says that jobs have increased. I insist that if you are going to increase labor productivity by going into machines or by depressing the wages of labor, this is not a healthy way of growing in our country. Only day before yesterday, the UNDP have reported, as our growth rates went up, our position on the HDI fell from 126 to 128 to 132 and now to 134.
Correct. So I think the point that Manish is making, I'm not disagreeing with you, but what Manish is saying is that it's the labor laws that are preventing people from getting higher.
Yeah, but getting what?
Labor laws are to blame for that. That's what he's saying.
What he is saying is that they're not getting the jobs. I'm saying that he wants to give the jobs by giving less perquisites.
Not true.
And that I object to.
Why don't you say what you are saying? Let's not interpret what you're saying.
Absolutely. I mean,
explain why are you saying that you're holding back?
Because we are breeding, we are encouraging going under the table. I mean, this is an apartheid. You know, unorganized employment is the slavery of the 21st century. Why does India have 93% unorganized employment?
Because the attempt to squeeze public investment in agriculture and in irrigation, in handlooms, and the sort of jobs in which people are earning money when they are ordinary people
He's making a simple point.
They are being squeezed out by economic policies which insist that the GDP is what is important and not the HDI that is important.
Gurudas Gupta, let me get you inside. The point that is being made out here is that you've got 7% of the organized workforce, and that workforce is represented by you and by other trade union leaders. But because you insist for so much protection for these 7%, the remaining 93% of the workforce suffers. That's the point that is being made.
First of all, who gave you the statistics that we represent? We have to represent the people who belong to 7% or 3%. Trade union movement in the country, particularly ITUC, we have been upholding the cause of the unorganized labor in a big way. Just to give you an example, we had been organizing large parliament march in Delhi, only with the unorganized labor, demanding that the government should extend its arm of welfare measures to help them.
Okay.
Therefore, it is a canard. It is a deliberate canard orchestrated by the big business to claim that the trade union movement is working for the benefit of the overpaid skilled labor. It's a canard, and you are repeating the canard.
Okay, fine. Let me just get that. Let me just discuss. Let's just discuss the canard. Mr. Gurudas Gupta, permit me to discuss the canard, and then we come to it. What he said is the canard. Can we understand the proposition that Manish made? Do you agree with it? That it is because of the labor laws that more people do not get jobs? And could you help explain it? Why is it that you're saying that?
I think I entirely agree with him. And I'd like to take an example of the textile industry. In 2005, the multi-fiber agreement came to an end. We were expecting our textile industry to take advantage of it. We've not been able to do so. But what has happened in the last 4 years? Pakistan, Bangladesh, Vietnam, they have gone ahead in this sector. We were very strong in textiles. I think we were protected by that agreement. We were hoping that with the abolition of that agreement, our industry would take advantage. We have slipped. Why? I think because, and if you talk to the textile industry, the labor laws are restricting them. You see, you have a look at it. You don't have contract labor. In the textile industry, in the fabric industry, you have a peak season where they need a lot of labor, but they cannot take them on contract. it can be on higher wages, they can be given protection, but because they know that if they were to take it and when the season goes, they won't be able to leave, they won't be leaving them, they don't go in for these things.
Okay.
So the point I'm making is textile industry, which is the second largest employer in the country after agriculture, has not been able to employ.
Manish, can I write a specific example? Because of some of the, I mean, let's just try and sit back a bit. Maybe there are areas where the labor laws are holding it back. What I think he's trying to make is that Indian industrialists and Indian industry could have done what the Chinese or the Bangladeshis or the Pakistanis have done, set up larger factories, employed hundreds and thousands of people, given them jobs in the peak seasons, provided they've been allowed to lay them off in the
still look after them during that period.
And look after them in the style industry.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And
is there anything wrong with that?
Yes, there's plenty wrong with that.
What?
I don't see any reason why the industrialist can be employed through the year by getting his profits, and the poor laborer is not entitled to get his wages right through the year.
Okay.
Why
can't they get the
1 second.
Why can't you have that and give them the wages through the year?
Let me first say very simply, if you were an entrepreneur and you knew that when you hire a worker because of the labor laws, it is a permanent process, what would you do logically? You would use more machine-intensive production. This is what had happened under socialism of money for 40 years.
That's absurd.
Instead of hiring labor, so you hire machines instead.
They become capital intensive in the larger sector. Through all the period of socialism, employment was in the villages itself, with a huge amount of labor being employed in the handloom sector and the khadi sector. Secondly, in small industry, where these labor laws did not apply so strictly, there was also a certain amount of growth. There was labor-intensive growth.
Because labor laws did not apply.
But the minute
you are saying labor laws did not apply.
But the minute you go into production rather than the remuneration of labor, then obviously the argument is right.
Okay.
If you're interested in production and not in the welfare of people, then he's right. I'm interested in the welfare of people.
So if I can ask you, by and large, if you take the country as a whole, would Indian workers across the country be on a whole much better off if there were hundreds and thousands of more factories and a lot more employment? Would they be doing better? They have so many more jobs to apply to, so many more factories to go to. If India did become a manufacturing country like China is, would India be better off? Would the average worker be better off?
See, in manufacturing sector, you know, the employment is shrinking year after year.
But why is it shrinking? That's the question.
Because of the government policies.
Is it?
Because of wrong policies.
Yes, we agree with you, but I think the point which is being made out here...
Why even it be in manufacturing? What about increasing employment in agriculture? Why not increase employment in the unorganized sector? That is where the bulk of our people are.
Because we need to reduce employment in agriculture.
Manish?
India became the largest producer of milk in the world last year. We produced 100 million tons of milk. 75 million people are involved in that process.